tell people that my job is to translate the American Southwest to our global audience. And in this role, I get to cover a lot of different stories. I once hiked across the desert to write about the many migrants who have died there, trying to make it from Mexico to the United States. I've helicoptered down into the bottom of the Grand Canyon to meet the man whose job is to keep the lights on at Grand Canyon National Park. And that was actually really cool. But one of the most memorable stories I've covered, one of the most meaningful stories to me, is the story of the Granite Mountain Hotshots, the 19 firefighters killed on June 30th, 2013 in Yarnell, Arizona, in this area right there. They were a group of firemen who had been working together to fight this fire and were surprised by it. Here they are, the Granite Mountain Hotshots, posing by an alligator juniper tree they saved from burning. You can almost sense the camaraderie among these guys in this picture. It was a picture taken by one of them, Chris McKenzie. Well, Chris died in this fire, but his camera survived, and his dad gave me the pictures that were in it. And this was one of them. When I was a reporter in New York, I covered at least a dozen funerals of firefighters killed on 9/11. That day in Arizona, June 30th, 2013, it dawned on me that the deaths I was about to cover represented the greatest loss of life among firefighters since that terrible September day. But you see, these guys, they had a lot to live for. They were strong and young. They were sons, husbands, fathers. They were mountain bikers, hikers, ice climbers. One of them was a youth pastor. 14 of them were in their 20s. 3 had wives expecting their first child. Yet, when they came face to face with a wave of flames, they stayed together. They chose to fight this fire together. This place where they died was this hollow of about 24 feet by 30 feet, and they were found there almost side by side under these thermal blankets that are known as fire shelters. And fire shelters are designed to protect firefighters from extreme heat, but not direct flame contact. About a month after they died, I visited this hollow, this place. And I remember when I got there, I looked around and everything was gone. The cactus, the trees, the brush, gone. Everything gray. And the ground beneath my feet crackled. It crackled. It was as if the hot fire had frozen the desert dirt I was walking on. State fire officials had taken a bunch of us reporters there that night and that day, and we were asking our questions, a lot of questions. We were trying to make sense of what happened. And there were some of us who were looking for somebody to blame. They kind of made me feel like I was covering a trial sometimes, you know, guilty, not guilty, good or bad, right or wrong. But when I looked at that hollow, I saw something different. I saw unity, cohesion, teamwork. That's what I saw. I saw a man who had made a decision to stay together, even though in hindsight, it was not the right decision for them. But you know, firefighting is a risky job, and they were a team. The day I visited that site was 2 days after my 40th birthday. I remember the date. It was July 23rd, 2013. And it was right at that moment when I looked at that hollow and saw something other people weren't seeing that I decided that story has to be told. I have to write a book. You know, I'm 40 years old. 40 seemed like a big deal to me, and I wanted to do something big and special. So I set out to find out what was it that these men did, that they were able to build a culture of loyalty so strong that it bound them together, that it gave them a sense of purpose that was greater than each of them as individuals. I wanted to find out who they were, and to do that, I talked to a lot of different people, I went to a lot of different places, and I went to the fire academy where a lot of them had trained and taught. See, I wanted to walk baby steps in their shoes and hold the tools that they held. Shovels, rakes, this combination tool on the foreground that's called a Pulaski. On the first day of class, our instructors split us up into 3 crews, 3 teams. Mine was called the Jackalopes, and we did everything together. We each had a tool, we each had a role, but we had one goal, a single goal, and we all worked together toward that goal. It was right then that I understood that this whole idea of teamwork, unity, cohesion started right there on the first day of the Fire Academy. And it was also then that I understood that part of the reason I wanted to write this book is that deep inside, I yearned to have what they had. I yearned to be part of a team that was around me and supporting me, and that I was supporting them. I wanted to have a life of meaning. You see, writing a book is not a glamorous thing. And yes, this is me under a table in the Arizona State Legislature writing a story on deadline. But for some reason, when I sat down in this office that I had at Arizona State University, I opened my computer, looked at this blank screen and this cursor that was blinking and taunting me. And the image that came to my head was the image of a man, a writer, with a glass of whiskey on one hand, a cigar on the other hand, and he would take a sip of his whiskey, and he would type a little bit, and then he would take another sip and type some more. That's not how it happens, okay? When I get really focused in my work, I tend to forget to do things like eat, drink water, take walks, and stretch my legs. It is not healthy. I do not recommend it. Anyway, I have a husband. He's a great guy, and he knows me well. And when I was writing my book, he would go to Costco and buy these big jars of cashews and bring them home. And I would grab a jar every Monday and bring it to the office with me. And I would sit there and I would grab some cashews and stuff it in my mouth and type and grab some more cashews and eat some more. And by the end of the day, my office was a mess. I was sitting there at this moment. I remember thinking, you know, this is such a lonely job. Writing is a lonely job. And I was there all by myself doing it. I felt, this is all on you, Fernanda, you know, all on you. My messy desk to my daughter looks something like that. She's 7 years old. She did this drawing for me. But the funny thing is that at the end of the day, with the desk full of crumbs, the trash can full of empty coffee cups and granola bar wrappers, I would go home and I'd come back the next morning and the desk was clean. The floor was vacuumed. The trash can was empty. The desk was wiped clean. Magic. When I sat down to write a chapter about the last moments of the Hotshots, I could picture them in that hollow, furiously cutting down the brush and the trees around them, furiously and as quickly as they could, because if you remember, there was a wall of flames there, and it was moving their way, and they were working together to build a safe space. They were working together to give the team, their team, a fighting chance of survival. I felt kind of guilty, you know. I had brought these guys back to life, and I was going to kill them all over again. I know it sounds really harsh and kind of weird, but that's how I felt. I also felt jealous, because there I was, all alone, writing my book, and they were surrounded by people who loved them as they were doing their work, people who cared for them. But then I remembered that morning, I had received an email from my editor. He was checking in on me, encouraging me. And then, you know, there was my husband, this guy who buy me cashews and would take care of things at home so that I could have the peace of mind I needed to write my book. And there was my friend Terry. She has an office across from mine, and she was always there talking to me, ready to encourage me. And I thought, my editor, my husband, my friend, my daughter was the light of my life, my team. You know, have you ever felt so lonely that and so busy that you had to sit down and like not even think about the world around you and eat by yourself at your desk? You know, I do that a lot in my work. But this day, I didn't even think I had to eat or had to do anything. I had to find that cleaning fairy. Remember the woman who cleaned my desk at night? I got out of my office and I went looking for her. And I spotted her, and I remembered it was her because I had seen her in the restroom wiping the counters and putting more paper towels there so I could dry my hands when I needed to. And I walked up to her, I went running, and I said, "Hi, my name is Fernanda, what's your name?" And she said, "My name is Carmen. Carmen, the cleaning fairy." And I said, "Thank you, Carmen. Thank you for what you do." She looked at me like I had 5 heads. And I said, "No, look, I want you to know that what you do is really important. I want you to know that I'm very grateful that you come and clean my desk, clean my office, and you're so respectful to my things and what I have. I wanted to thank you for being part of my team. You know, those busy days that we eat at our desks, those moments when we look at our phones all the time and we forget the people around us. Have you ever felt that nobody really understands how hard you've been working? Or, you know, how many sacrifices you're making to get your job done? Well, I have. Have you ever felt alone? Well, I want to tell you, you are not alone. Put down the phone, put down the tablet, and look around you. Notice the people who are there for you, the people who love you, the people who care for you. They exist. Notice the people who come by your office and clean it up for you. They are valuable. See, I have my team, my editor, my husband, our daughter, my friends, real friends, not Facebook friends. Who is on your team? That's the thought I want you to leave here tonight. Who is on your team? Thank you.